Many people believe that skin aging, declining vision, problems with memory, and the heart are simply an inevitable part of getting older, that the body wears out over time and there is very little we can do about it. But from a biochemical perspective, aging often begins somewhere quite different from where we tend to look for it. It starts at the level of molecules and cell membranes. When I was studying at medical university in our biochemistry department, we were shown a fairly simple experiment. Cells were placed in an environment with an increased level of free radicals, and within a short period of time, you could literally observe how membranes, proteins, and DNA began to get damaged. At that time, the professor said one phrase that I still remember very clearly. Most chronic diseases do not start with symptoms, but with oxidative damage to cells. This is Dr. Helena, and today we are going to talk about a substance that has attracted a lot of scientific interest in recent years precisely because it can influence this process. That substance is astaxanthin. What is astaxanthin? Astaxanthin is a natural compound from the carotenoid group. It is what gives salmon, trout, shrimp, and krill their characteristic pink-red color. But in reality, the main producer of astaxanthin in nature is a microscopic algae called Haematococcus pluvialis. When environmental conditions become extreme, intense sunlight, lack of water, high temperatures, this algae begins to produce large amounts of astaxanthin. It acts as a kind of biological shield that protects the cell from damage. And it is exactly this protective ability that makes astaxanthin so interesting for medicine. To understand why astaxanthin is of such interest to scientists, we first need to understand what free radicals are. Everyone has heard of them. They are constantly formed in the body, during energy production in mitochondria, during physical activity, during inflammation, under the influence of ultraviolet radiation, due to air pollution, from smoking, during chronic stress. In a young body, there is a powerful defense system, our own antioxidant enzymes. But with age, this system becomes less efficient. And when the number of free radicals starts to exceed the body's ability to neutralize them, a condition called oxidative stress develops. It is this process that gradually damages DNA, cell membranes, proteins, mitochondria. And this is directly linked to the development of atherosclerosis, neurodegenerative diseases, declining vision, skin aging, weakened immunity. How astaxanthin is different from other antioxidants. Most antioxidants work either inside the cell or within the cell membrane, or in the blood plasma. Astaxanthin works differently. Because of its unique structure, it actually embeds itself into the cell membrane and spans across it. This allows astaxanthin to protect the cell from both sides at the same time. Why this matters for blood vessels? One of the key issues is the oxidation of low-density lipoproteins, LDL, often referred to as bad cholesterol. LDL itself is not dangerous, but when it becomes oxidized, it starts to damage the vessel wall and triggers the formation of an atherosclerotic plaque. Astaxanthin may reduce LDL oxidation, which has been shown in experimental and some clinical studies. Cellular defense mechanisms. At the cellular level, astaxanthin can influence several protective systems in the body. Research suggests that it can activate the NRF2 pathway, a kind of internal switch for cellular defense. When this pathway is activated, cells begin to produce more of their own antioxidant enzymes, such as glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and catalase. At the same time, astaxanthin may reduce the activity of processes that lead to chronic inflammation inside cells. And chronic inflammation is now considered one of the key factors involved in the development of conditions such as atherosclerosis, diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases. Astaxanthin also helps protect mitochondria, the power plants of the cells. It supports their function and reduces the formation of harmful oxygen molecules. This is why astaxanthin is currently being actively studied in the context of aging, Alzheimer's disease, and metabolic syndrome. A few years ago, a patient around 55 years old came to see me. His main complaints were quite typical: fatigue, reduced performance, difficulty concentrating, and memory decline. During the evaluation, we found elevated triglycerides, elevated LDL, early signs of atherosclerosis. Of course, we adjusted his diet and lifestyle. That is always the foundation. But in addition, we decided to try an anti-inflammatory strategy that included omega-3 fatty acids, astaxanthin. After a few months, follow-up tests showed a decrease in triglycerides, an increase in good HDL cholesterol, an overall improvement in how he felt. Of course, this does not mean that astaxanthin is a cure for everything. But observations like this align well with findings from scientific studies. What research shows? One of the most studied effects of astaxanthin is its impact on the skin. In clinical studies, taking about 4 to 10 milligrams per day for 8 to 10 weeks led to a reduction in wrinkle depth, improved skin elasticity, increased hydration levels. This is explained by two mechanisms. First, a reduction in oxidative stress. Second, inhibition of enzymes called metalloproteinases, which break down collagen. And collagen is essentially the structural framework of our skin. The slower it breaks down, the longer the skin maintains its firmness. There is also interesting data regarding vision. Astaxanthin may improve accommodation, the ability of the eye to quickly focus on objects at different distances. This is especially relevant in age-related farsightedness. Astaxanthin is able to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is why it is being studied in relation to Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, age-related memory decline. However, it is important to understand that many of these studies are still limited in size and ongoing. How to take astaxanthin properly? There is one important point. Astaxanthin is a fat-soluble compound. This means that without fats, it is hardly absorbed at all. So it is best to take it with meals and together with sources of healthy fats. For example, olive oil, avocado, nuts, fatty fish, omega-3. Who might benefit from supporting heart rhythm and reducing inflammation? Try this combination, omega-3 plus astaxanthin. Together, they can create a strong synergistic effect. What dosages are used? In scientific studies, the most commonly used doses are from 4 to 12 milligrams per day. Most supplements contain around 10 milligrams per capsule, which is considered a safe and effective dose. It is also important to note that in clinical studies, astaxanthin has shown a very high safety profile, even with long-term use. Contraindications and precautions. Astaxanthin generally has a good safety profile, but there are still some considerations. It may slightly affect blood clotting, making the blood a bit thinner. Caution is advised if you are taking warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel. Astaxanthin may also slightly lower blood pressure, so caution is needed in cases of hypotension. Most supplements are made from algae, but sometimes the source may be linked to marine organisms. People with allergies to shrimp, krill, or fish should check the source of astaxanthin. However, it is important to understand one thing. Astaxanthin is not a magic pill. Longevity rarely depends on a single factor. It is always a combination of proper nutrition, physical activity, weight control, healthy sleep. But as part of a comprehensive strategy aimed at reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, it is one of the most interesting natural compounds currently being studied. And substances like astaxanthin show that sometimes nature has already created molecules that can help us maintain health at the cellular level.